This is the Sales Whisperer Podcast, Session 13. You're not fired. Hello, podcast listeners. As I went back to review this interview, there's some good and bad. As I grow in my technological prowess, I have learned a thing or two about USB microphones. For some reason, it sounds like I am dialed back a bit. I don't know, on maybe drinking some cough syrup. But fortunately, Kelly's audio came through just fine. But when you hear me sounding a little sluggish, it is the technology. It is not me. But enjoy this interview with Westpoint graduate, entrepreneur, apprentice winner, investor, author, Mr. Kelly Perdew. Welcome, everybody. This is Wes Schaefer, the Salesman. Today, I've got a friendly competitor from the Army, Mr. Kelly Perdew. Kelly, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Wes.
Man, we first ran across each other, like 2001. I think Jeremy Goki introduced us when y'all were doing the Layoff Lounge. You remember that?
Yes, I do.
I was in Austin. You've always been, or at least for a while, you've been out in California, right?
Yeah, I came out as my first duty station was Fort Ord up in Monterey, California, after my military intelligence officer basic course in Fort Huachuca, Arizona. But I was up at the 7th ID Light, 89 to 92, and then started in the law and business program at UCLA in 92. And I've pretty much been here almost the entire time. I spent one very fun year in New York City, and then I've spent a year down in Carlsbad. But other than that, I've been living pretty much in Los Angeles.
So the folks that may not remember you were the winner of The Apprentice, right? Season 2?
That's correct.
In what year?
2005, I spent working with Donald. Actually moved to New York and on to Manhattan. Worked in Trump Tower there on Fifth Avenue, and learned a lot working with him on a daily basis. Also had a really good time doing some of the fun stuff in New York City that I was privileged to be a part of after having won that.
So, you and I have a similar background. I mean, you're going to Westpoint. I went to the Air Force Academy. Your dad, your parents were probably like mine. Go to a good school, get a good education, right? You go to a great school like Academies. Your future is set, right? You're going to get a good job, and all you right in the world. Do you think that's still good advice?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big believer and there are a lot of ways to accomplish your objective. Some of the paths are more obvious than others. I'd say, all things being equal, if you can avoid a heaping amount of debt that forces you to make certain decisions, that's great. And whether that's through academic or athletic scholarships or a little bit more of the school of life versus necessarily an advanced education component. Whether it's the military, the Peace Corps, something like that, before you actually take off and go to college at the ripe old age of 18 years old, can certainly give you some life lessons that will help you make better decisions and know more about what it is that's exciting or you're passionate about, so that you can use, if you're going to pack on that large amount of debt that usually takes to go to school, you're at least doing it, tracking down a path that's efficient, and you're going to be able to pay it back as soon as possible. But I do believe that that's still, with the right direction, the right guidance, that's a great path for a lot of people to go down.
How did you make the transition from, formal education, military, yes sir, no sir, to being an entrepreneur? Before we got on this call, you were talking about, you may have a lot of fires to put in, as a business owner myself. I mean, same thing. Emails come in. Things happen. How did you make that transition? Did you always know you wanted to be an entrepreneur, or did this kind of evolve and change during your service?
No, I watched my father, who's a land developer and is truly an entrepreneur, do things like see a piece of land, figure out a way to develop it so that it would increase the value, create the jobs and the buildings and whatever it might be, the land that was being developed, but put together the financing package, bring the talent and the team that can be able to do it, pre-lease the property with the tenants, and that's pretty much the recipe for anything that you're doing when you're creating something, whether it's a business or a movie. There are 4 or 5 main components that kind of got to be juggled in the right order, brought together at the right time, the right story, the right compelling reasons, a financial reason for everybody involved to make it worth something, and that was always inspiring for me. I didn't know, oh my gosh, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I didn't think about it that way very often, very early. And in fact, when going to the law and the business school program at UCLA, I was really, at that point in time, just trying to keep as many doors open as possible. I'm a big believer in optionality. And going through that process, I started to eliminate things that once I tried them, like working at a law firm. As a law clerk during that 4-year program, it became pretty clear pretty quickly that was not what was going to make me happy. In fact, I actually didn't really see that making many people happy. But in any event, I knew it wasn't right. It wasn't right for me. And then I also got to meet and interact with a whole lot of people who were steeped in business from the business school side, and learn more about what it meant to be an entrepreneur and develop some technical skill sets that are required to do it. And that fit a lot better with my DNA and how I thought about things and how I define risk, which I think is one of the biggest components for a lot of people. I get asked, how do you make a decision to, go try something on your own or try to build your own business? And isn't that, really risky? I've got a family, I've got bills to pay. And I think over the last, at least, the first bubble in 2000 and then the 2008 financial crisis that occurred should have, awakened a lot of people to the fact that just because you're a large organization doesn't mean you have a secure job. And one of the things I really enjoy about and the way I define risk, being an entrepreneur, is you really have a very good idea of where the end of the road is. You could fire yourself if you're an entrepreneur, but you have a lot more, at least perceived, understanding and control of what's happening with your organization. It's a lot of responsibility because you're that for a lot of other people, whoever is in your company. Don't get me wrong. You may not have a direct boss, but there's clients and employees and you name it. And there's always some form of a boss around telling you, taking your time and telling you where you need to be and why you need to be doing stuff. But really characterizing risk is some control, even if it's perceived, not necessarily reality, but at least knowing and understanding what's going on with your business is, to me, much more powerful and assuring than being one of 5,000 or 10,000 people in an organization, in a division, where if something starts to go wrong simply because your last name starts with an S, you could be fired.
Right. So you got out of the Army and you went into law school?
Say that again, sorry.
So when you got out of the Army, did you go right into law school?
Yeah, I went into law and business, the JD MBA program at UCLA.
Okay. And then how did that transition, because that was what, mid-90s?
Yeah, 92 to 96 was that program.
So you were in business for quite a while, right, before the opportunity Apprentice came up.
Yeah, I'd raised money for the first venture that I got involved with during the last year and a half of the business law school program. Right. And actually raised money while in school and adapted all my classes to be for my business. So they weren't, theoretical or about other person's businesses. They were literally about, okay, I need a marketing plan. Okay, I need the financial model structured correctly. And how do I build a product? So I really applied to my business at the time, the business school classes that I was in. So I would say 95 was about the start of it. So I was about 10 years in business in various businesses by the time that I interviewed or tried out or auditioned, I guess, for The Apprentice. So
for our veteran friends listening to this, how did you make the transition from leaving the service to law business school? I mean, were there loans or scholarships, or how to make that smooth transition? Because you're talking about staying out of debt, which I'm a big fan of.
Well,
How'd you make that transition?
I'm pretty old, so I was a California resident back when it only cost like a couple grand a semester for the UC programs.
Gotcha.
So getting into that program was important. If I'd gone to a Harvard or Stanford or something else, it would have been a different story. I would have had a lot more debt, and who knows, maybe I'd be a corporate attorney now because I would have had to go make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year right out of the gate to pay down those loans. Definitely forces your hand a little bit. And I also worked 20 hours a week during the program as a law clerk. So I was doing a joint degree and working 20 hours a week. So it was actually a fairly smooth transition for me. The prioritization, the leadership skills, the attention to detail, the amount of studying that we had to do at Westpoint made law school and business school seem pretty easy. So I think that a lot of the skill sets that I developed and honed in the military were immediately applicable to excelling in those programs for the school side. And then the work ethic and the fact that I didn't have much money, I had to go, make some money. Being able to stay up late and still function. A lot of the stuff that you learn in the military was very useful.
Right. Well, and that's the lesson I like to keep drive home, is that it wasn't easy. The academies aren't easy, service isn't easy, but then getting in this, we see you on TV, and we'll talk about the hill and stuff, but all that just looks, really glorious, and you've got it made, but you did a lot to get there, and then you've continued doing a lot ever since. Do you see yourself? Have you ever let off? Are easier now? I'm sure they're probably easier in a way, but you find yourself driven to achieve and still pushing yourself?
Well, I definitely feel I'm, and again, that has to do with the entrepreneurial component, and it's something I talk about in my book. Take Command, 10 Leadership Principles I Learned in the Military and Put to Work for Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. The publisher liked that title. It had the number 10 in it, Donald Trump. And anyway, the Take Command, that part was mine. I definitely am passionate about the things that I work on. So I believe strongly that to be successful, to be really successful, and that's not just about money, that's also about being happy, that you really have to marry together a way to make a living with something you're excited about. Or you just don't spend too much time at work. That's probably the best thing, right? I happen to very much enjoy building something, and I think again that might come a lot from watching what my father did, and whether that's the company, a brand, an organization, whatever it might be, I really enjoy it and work on the skill sets that allow it to happen. And being an entrepreneur, I keep doing it, right? I've moved, I'd say. If you talk about cash flow quadrant, or I don't know if you've read that book or not, but building systems that operate while you sleep, that's awesome. And then from an investment side, I've also started making investments in other entrepreneurs that I think are doing great things, very large things, because I don't have to run and or be operating in all of them. So I either take an advisory role or a board member slot, and or just from an active investor role, and I've in about 18 or 20 deals now, all of which are incredibly exciting, where I can leverage my network to help them or assist them, and in some instances where I'm more involved, actually mentor the entrepreneur so that he can avoid. Most of them are he. I think I've had one female CEO. I can mentor them and hopefully help them avoid the pitfalls that I've had to clamber out of with broken legs and arms.
Right.
So that stuff to me is probably something I'll just do forever because I really do enjoy it. That entrepreneurialism is the lifeblood, really, of this country. I think it's imperative that we don't lose it and keep on building and honing those skills to create, innovate, and disrupt, so that we're all at the forefront of what's going on, whether it's in technology, telecom, all the internet application components, very important.
So what mistakes and then what right things, good things do you see entrepreneurs making? Because you're basically like an angel investor or venture capitalist, right?
Yeah, I'm much closer to the angel investment.
Right.
And then I help find follow-on rounds of financing like venture capital and help them negotiate it.
Right.
One of the things that I see entrepreneurs getting they should focus on it, but they should understand that over the long haul, if they're really going to raise a lot of money and build a very, very large venture, that 2 or 3 or 4 or 5% difference in how much you give up of your company now to somebody who's investing really is not going to mean a whole lot to you in 3 to 5 years when you exit if you build something big. So it's more important to get the right partner and the money in so that you can build and move quickly than it is to negotiate that last nickel and dime, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a big one. I've really, making decisions and then following through with them with a plan is also very important instead of just kind of flowing whichever way the wind happens to be blowing that day is pretty important. It's important for your people to understand that you do have a strategy about how you're attacking a market so that you can continue to inspire them and lead them. It's important for your customers to think about and understand what you are and what you're doing so that they know it and understand it, can compartmentalize you in the right way so that they can budget for you and pay you money. And then from an investor standpoint, they like to, any plan you put together is going to be wrong, kind of by definition. No plan survives first contact. Yeah. But the fact that you have one, you have the discipline to put one together, and then you can adjust fire based on how you're doing on that plan is really important.
Right. I've seen, what was the book? It was like the one-page business plan or something like that. I mean, are you encouraging people? Would you tell them to get super detailed or make it quick like that one-page business plan so at least there's something? I think people can get too bogged down. They major in the minors and they never launch. How do you draw that line between a lot of detail and too much detail?
Well, in probably 4 years now, I haven't seen a business plan. Right? There's usually some form of a financial model that shows you have discipline, and then there's everything from a napkin to a fairly comprehensive PowerPoint presentation that covers the major basic components of your business model, your team, the problem you're solving, the marketplace, competition, those types of things. So it is very important that the entrepreneur be able to communicate effectively, whether that's written, verbal, combination. So the ones that I see that are the most successful have a very deep command and understanding of the specifics, but are able to understand who the audience is that they happen to be speaking to and appropriately lower or raise the level of detail during the discussion with an end in mind, right? Always with the end in mind. Like, I want a check from you. No. Or I don't need a check from you. You're maybe a good distribution partner, or you know what? I want you to be my head of product, whatever it might be, right?
So, you can hear. So, we're talking, or we're kind of venturing towards the fundraising side of things, but what about just the typical entrepreneur? Like me, I'm running the Sales Whisperer. I don't know that I would ever need money to branch out the Sales Whisperer. But, I feel like I'm your typical entrepreneur, built something up, got a small team, growing steadily. What would you say to those entrepreneurs that aren't necessarily going out raising money, but want to build a sustainable entity?
Yeah, I mean, for anybody who's providing jobs and products and services for other people and working diligently at that, I think it's important to have your own personal plan, right? Are you building a lifestyle business? Do you want to keep working, or do you want to create a system that works for you? Are you grooming somebody to take it over? Do you want to expand? How big do you want it to be? What's your exit? A lot of people develop and build something that's kind of a nice, real thriving, respectable business. And then because they don't think about how to exit or what to do or how to evolve, they wake up one morning kind of obsolete or out of business. And that is not a reference to you at all, Wes. I'm just saying it's something that you have to constantly consider and understanding the marketplace. What's the competition look like? How are you differentiated? What's the next evolution? Do you need new customers or do you have the same customers with new products? All of those are important considerations. And obviously the type of business model that you have or whatever the product or services dictate the way you think about each of those. But mom and pop grocery store on the corner has all the same dynamics of competition, traffic, average order value, repeat visits. How do we expand our reach? All of those things apply to the mom and pop store on the corner as they do to a conglomerate. It's the same dynamics. And how do I get my cost of goods down or ensure they're controlled? How do I hedge against something spiking in price? What's my rent going to go up to because some big condo place wants to buy the landlord out? All of those dynamics are at play on every level of or size of an organization. But again, it comes back to what do you want? You happy with 5 or 10 people making enough money to keep your family fed and put some away for the future? Yeah, that's awesome. That happiness piece is what's critical, right? You can kick off at 3 every day and go coach your son's little league. That's nirvana. That's awesome, right? I don't know how you compare the value of that versus building a $500 million organization when you never see your family. Not that those are mutually exclusive, but it frequently how you make those decisions and what's important to you is going to dictate what you do as an entrepreneur with your business.
Right. Let's shift gears a bit. What is your take on social media? Rage, but as a multiple business owner and investor, where do you see its role in business?
Oh, it's just another channel. It's like any other kind of media, right? There's digital media where you're advertising and convert customers. There's traditional media, advertising, PR, convert customers, and social obviously is a form of digital, but we've experienced massive amount of growth in actual commerce occurring, and we actually call it social commerce now, not social media. It's got the highest return on advertising spend. It's about behavior influence. It's like every other channel. Word of mouth it's just a digitized word of mouth almost. And
so you are monetizing it?
Oh yeah, it's for our clients. It's one of the best performing channels that exists.
And you have all these different businesses. Is it any particular business? Are these you're investing in, or is it your personal business?
Yeah, and it like you said, it's just another channel. So almost every business can use almost every channel, right? So if you're selling goods, products, and services, we are selling goods in Facebook and or directly out of Facebook. Okay. It isn't about getting a bunch of likes anymore. Obviously, that's a piece of the puzzle, but it's really about if I spend $1, how many sales do I get?
Right.
That's really what we focus on across all of the businesses in those types of things. That's the KPI, right? Okay. If I spend $1 marketing, what's the effectiveness and how do I get revenue out of that?
Yeah. See, I like discussing this because, I'm in this world and I'm dealing with small businesses and everybody thinks I equate it to kind of desktop publishing, 15 years ago. Everybody got a PC now, it's like never kind of happened but didn't really. But because you consider you can do it, people feel like they have to do it or that they do it right. How do people do it right? I like what you said about it's not just getting likes. You're buying ads on Facebook, and are you driving them to a separate landing page, driving them to your Facebook page, like with different software embedded where they can opt in right there? How are your guys leveraging that?
Across Every way that you just mentioned.
Okay.
Understanding, I mean, Facebook over the last 2 years has become a direct marketing channel, period. That's how they describe themselves. We are a direct marketing channel, period.
Yep.
And direct marketing channel means you pay $1 in, you get X number of sales out.
Yep.
And they're delivering. And if you look at what's happening with their advertising revenue, you'll understand why that's occurring.
Right.
Jacking through the roof. So.
Yep. Yeah, it's changed a bunch, and yeah, I hope people are paying attention. What'd you learn from the Trump, from the Donald? Do you like him? Is he a good guy?
Yeah, he's absolutely a great guy. He's super loyal. Loyalty is probably one of his professed and actual most important characteristics for the people that work with him. I'd say the stuff that I learned is one. You need, if you're running your organization and or in the kind of PR advertising, you really master of media. If you understand how to use media better than your competitors, you're going to be so far ahead.
Yep.
And he is a master at the spin and using traditional media. I also really enjoyed watching the way he talks about and I guess almost embodies. You really have to think big. Right, and I do this with a lot of entrepreneurs, right? If you're going to go out and raise $500,000, it's almost as easy to raise. It's the same amount of work to raise $3 million.
Right.
In fact, it might be even easier to raise $5 million than it might be to raise $500,000, because your idea is bigger, which is going to be more inspiring to the people that are on the team. It's got a much bigger appeal. It gives you more revenue. More cash when you close it to be able to go after and figure out and understand what you're doing. Right. Thinking big is really critical, and I do find a lot of people get a little pigeonholed and don't understand. Let me step back again. Let me step back again. How big can I make this? What could this potentially become?
Right.
And that story becomes super compelling for attracting, clients and employees and partners and investors and everything else.
Right.
And that's what I mean by sometimes it's easier to raise a lot more money, or it's equally as difficult. So you might as well go for the big one.
I went up on him recently. I mean, people get on him, for many various reasons. But I mean, he's declared his companies. 3 companies have declared bankruptcy, right? 3 or 4 times. Did he get too big sometimes? You think, or is that just part of business? And just a smart thing to do when you need to do. How would you address that?
Well, not all businesses work, and you can try to do them and try, and you don't necessarily have to be successful. There's a whole bunch of reasons why businesses fail too, and one of those is the equity and debt structure. I'm not, 1, at liberty to discuss and or 2, have the full details or knowledge about his full business dealings. So most of the successful people I know have several horrible learning experiences in their past, and that's how they got to be where they are, as they did go through tough times and figure stuff out, and 1, have a passion for not ever experiencing that again, and 2, have learned enough through that process to avoid it in the future. So and every business model is different. A lot of what Donald's been doing for the past 2 years is putting his name on things, getting paid a lot of money up front and a residual for a licensing fee for having his name associated with it. And the only way he was able to do that was build enough brand equity around the name Trump, having to do with quality and success, that people are willing to pay for it.
Right.
And then hold people to the people that he does license that name to, hold them to a level of quality so that it's never reflects badly on him or degrades the quality of that brand. So pretty genius if you think about it, right? Started off with, I don't know how many, 30, 40 million bucks and his dad's good name as a real estate developer in New York City. Pretty significant delta in what he's created since then in terms of an empire, the name recognition worldwide, all the different stuff that's going on. There are a lot of people who start with that type of a, obviously most people consider that a fortune and game over money, right? But
right.
A lot of people start with that equivalent and don't do as much with it. So I was very impressed in working with him, and think he's great.
Do you still have setbacks in your business?
Yeah, every day.
How do you?
I tell entrepreneurs to get like a spinning dial where the top half of the dial is a smiley face and the bottom half is a frowny face. And pretty much any time that you can spin that and have a 50-50 chance of the next thing happening being bad, the next thing happening being good. So you got to Rudyard Kipling's poem "If" about treating success and failure, both those imposters, the same.
Right.
You really need to have an even keel if you're going to be an entrepreneur, and nothing is ever quite as good as it seems to be or as bad as it seems to be. Just kind of even it out.
How do you keep going?
I have 3.5-year-old twin, boy and girl. My wife has built and sold 4 companies, 3 to Interpublic Group and 1 to MDC, and as a partner with 3 other people before I met her. And she works longer, harder, and more intelligently than I do. So I have a pretty high bar. So I'm always hopping and popping to try to keep up with her. And then I get inspired by the products we're creating, by the employees that have deemed us, good enough to work with. Been constantly impressed. I mean, one of the things that we try to do in our organization, we have a saying here. There's 2 of them. There's a consultancy called the Dumont Project, and then there's a product company called Target Close. And we attempt to attract and hire and retain people so that, every week we're surprised and inspired and delighted by the expertise and intelligence and creativity of the people on the team in some manner. And we try to stick to that. Now, clients are clients, right? No matter what you do, there's a reason they're the clients. So they're gonna create fire drills for you, and we try to eliminate making them ourselves. Creating fire drills on our own, and leave that up to the clients and try to fix that. It's with the products or services that we're providing, right. But really staying inspired and building gets me excited every day.
Very cool. Well, heck, other than your book, anything you're developing now or you would want our listeners to visit? I mean, your main site is kellyperdew.com, right?
Yeah, I haven't updated that in a while. Probably give them my LinkedIn if they want to talk to me about something or directly reach out. I'm pretty responsive. I get back to people. It'll take me under a month. But I get back to everybody. Sometimes it happens in a week. Just depends on what days I'm filtering stuff. But my LinkedIn profile is probably a good way to connect to me. And then our company's called Target Close, TARGETCLOSE.com. So if there's something that looks interesting for a B2C owner, a business to consumer owner that would like to use our services, letter from them.
And then your books, I see that you just send them to Amazon for Take Command.
Say that again. Yeah, Amazon's got Take Command, correct. And I did try to embody a lot of the transferring the leadership principles from the military to business, and you don't have to have been in the military either. Everybody's got the capability to develop their leadership skills. You just got to work at it like any other skill.
Right. Any parting words for our listeners?
For the entrepreneurs out there, don't give up. Right? Yeah. Perseverance is critical. I would say that, combining your passion, some type of passion for something so that you're excited to get out of bed every morning and go after it. That and a plan, those 3 things, perseverance, passion, and planning. If you can lock those 3 up, you got a really high chance of hitting your objective.
All right. Sounds good. Since we live about 90 miles apart, maybe one day we'll actually meet.
Sounds good, Wes. Keep it up.
All right, Kelly. Beat Navy.
Yeah, beat Navy.
There you have it. Have a big idea, perseverance, be passionate, have a plan. Far too many people, they think small. They focus on the obstacles instead of the opportunity. They underprice their offerings. They accept too many excuses from small thinkers around them, and it brings them down. Think big. Go make big things happen. And as always, I thank you for listening to the podcast. Please visit iTunes, leave a 5-star review, visit thesaleswhisperer.com/session13. Leave some comments. There's some links there to tweet this out. Share the love, would you? The more that we share, the word gets out, I can grow and help more folks. Thank
you for listening to the Sales Whisperer podcast at www.thesaleswhisperer.com.
Thank you, Miss Ella. How old are you?
5.
Thank you very much. Now let's go eat some pudding.